This past season was one to remember. Indiana Hoosiers, national champs, first time ever, second year head coach. So many storylines to talk about. My name is Bryan Partiga alongside Jacob Vanderford. We're back for CFBT, a 2025 season recap. We have so many things to talk about from a wild, wild season. And I feel like we are going to focus so much on the good of what some of these 12 team playoff teams did this past year, as well as some of the big storylines that hit the sport and some of the things that are going to really parlay into 2026. But I think we want to start with Indiana. And maybe people are having some Hoosier fatigue. I don't know if you feel that way, Jacob, as a fan of a Big Ten team, but I'm not. I'm not over it. I'm not over Fernando Mendoza. I'm not over the story, the family. I'm not over Signetti, the talent, the way the trajectory of that program is going. One of the losingest programs of all time, now national champs. What is your outlook or one or two takeaways you want to take from the Indiana football season?
Man, it's hard to be a Big Ten fan of a school that's not doing well. That used to be a perennial power in the Big 12. Transition to the Big 10 hasn't been good. Talking about the Huskers for sure. But seeing Indiana, their rise has just been insane to watch. Seeing Signetti come in from being at IUP, from going to James Madison, like he said, Google me, he wins, and he does. I just didn't think that it was going to be that quick of a rise. And we continue to talk about this in the college football world, sports world. But it's just really crazy to see the blueprint that he laid and how they just continued to rise. And in year two, they win the national championship. Like that's unheard of. And so I think my biggest takeaway from Indiana is that Signetti is laying the blueprint for some of these schools that a lot of people don't really hear about in a day and age where the transfer portal and NIL is taking over so much of not just college football, but baseball, basketball, soccer, like sports across the board. And you're not. I mean, I'm hoping that we continue to see schools that we hadn't seen before as commonly. We continue to see Ohio State in there. We continue to see Alabama's, your Georgia's, your Notre Dame's, your Oregon's, your Oklahoma, schools like that. Even Miami's jumping back into the picture. But so some of these schools are using NIL, are using transfer portal. But it's just really interesting to me to see an Indiana team that a lot of their players are had that chip on their shoulder. They were two-star players, three-star players coming out of high school, didn't have a ton of offers. You think about Fernando Mendoza, like he's the Heisman Trophy winner, and the guy was a two-star recruit and barely made the Cal roster. Like, so that is really crazy to me. And just seeing the way that he's able to develop these players, I think that's the key when you're trying to become a head coach in college football today, is being able to develop players and help them to see past just the NIL, just the transfer portal, all of the money that they can make, all of the TV deals that they can make, and see past that and see what kind of impact they can make on a school. And the Indiana players saw that. They saw that, oh, like this Indiana team, they've been terrible for a century. And the best year we've seen in a long time, 16-0, first time since, was it Yale? And I forget the year,
1894 Yale, which I don't think we've talked
1894.
about on our history pods yet.
Yes, we need to get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, my biggest takeaways are the coaching blueprint that Signetti laid that continues to prove itself and see the fruits of its labor. The players with that chip on their shoulder that poured into the program, they cared about it, they wanted to see it transition into a new age, and it did. It's just, I don't know, it's all kind of mind blowing to me.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned the star recruits and stuff like that because when I think of the national championship era, really since 1998 when the BCS started, that's when a lot of these recruiting industries really took off. Like On3, the ESPN 300, 247 Sports, ones that we talk about all the time, really started as the national championship game era started. And no champion until this Indiana team had a roster compromised of more two, three, one-star recruits than non 4 and 5 star recruits. So this is the first national championship team that is not as talented as the ones that came before it. So really, the lack of blue chip prospects is really impressive to me. The guys that they were able to take in from James Madison, these were guys who were on that James Madison team that transitioned from the FCS to the FBS. Like these guys really didn't know high level caliber football until like the past 2 years, which is just crazy to me. So just being able to walk in their shoes and walk through their journey has been really exciting. But I want to make sure we hit on, some of the other playoff teams as well, like the team they beat, Mario Cristobal's Miami team. They had a phenomenal run. I think Mario really kind of took the weight off his shoulders, that monkey off his back with some of the wins that he was able to get in the playoff. What is your viewpoint on the Hurricane season as they rose back into that national prominence after being the last team into the playoff?
Man, I'll just say it. I hate Miami. I go back to the
As a Nebraska fan, yeah.
2001 season when they beat us with that stacked defense. But it is, I have to admit, very excited to see them get back into the picture. I really miss a lot of those schools that just looking back at film and things like that from back in the day in the 90s and 2000s, and just those blue blood schools that have these national titles getting back into the mix. I didn't think that Miami was going to make that national title game. I thought they'd be honestly out in that first round. But seeing them advance and advance past A&M, past Ole Miss, and ultimately making it to Indiana was really, really cool to see. And I'm like you said, I'm excited to see Mario Cristobal really again get that monkey off his back. He played there. He knows what it takes. I really love that he was an offensive lineman because I feel like we miss a lot of that grittiness and toughness in today's age of college football. It's all about the skill players, wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks. But really, what made college football what it is the trenches and the defensive line clogging up holes and stopping the run game, which leads to more focus on the secondary and the secondary being able to bat balls away and intercept passes. And they all just kind of work together, but it starts in the trenches. It starts with the O line and the defensive line. And you saw that with Miami. That's one of my biggest takeaways of that team this year is the trenches and the way that Cristobal was able to build those. Miami's going to have two, three linemen. They're going to be drafted in the first two rounds.
Yeah. Oh my
Which
gosh, that
is
defensive line is crazy.
the defensive line, yeah, as well. Ruben Bain, Maui Yoga on the offensive line at tackle. He's going to go top 10.
Oh yeah.
Bain's going to go top 4. So I'm really excited to see the way Miami continues to grow. We talked before the podcast started about Darren Mensah being transferring from Duke to Miami.
Yeah.
Big pull for the Hurricanes, and I think he's going to be a Heisman contender, probably towards the top of the list, with the way he's able to spray that ball around the field, throwing, I believe, close to 4,000 yards, if not more, this year, and winning the ACC championship. It's just going to springboard into this coming year for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal year at Duke. And for Duke to win the ACC championship in the way they did and losing all of these random non-conference games that they lost and kind of fumbling their way into that was really funny to watch for me. But now seeing Darian Mensah go to a program like Miami and be surrounded by so much talent. We talked about the offensive line, and they have some guys returning, and they will reload. You have Malachi Tony, you have your running back in Marcus Fletcher. So you have talent everywhere. The big question will be the defense, and if they're going to be able to live up to what this past year was. So that's the kind of the big question going into next year. And like Miami's schedule isn't super difficult next year, but we saw them lose to Louisville this past year and SMU. And those weren't bad teams. Like those were both good teams that found themselves ranked at different points in the season. So they weren't bad teams. But if you're 10-2 in the ACC, we've seen it before and we'll probably see it again. You're not guaranteed anything. So that's kind of a scary spot that I think that's the part that I was worried about with Miami and Mario getting into the playoffs is like, can they win those games when they need to? And they proved it. And all those games were close. You mentioned them, A&M, Ohio State, Ole Miss, and even the Indiana game. It was winnable close to the end. But it kind of felt like it was just going to be Indiana's year, even going into that.
Yeah,
So yeah, good year for Miami. I'm excited for what they got coming back. I think you and I, as Nebraska and Ohio State fans, kind of just feel some type of way, but
some
we're
type of
we're
way.
yeah, but we're still excited as college football fans in general. Talk about some of the other teams that made the playoffs, and this will kind of go into our segment on kind of like the big storylines of this past year. The two semifinal teams. So Ole Miss, and Oregon, correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It just feels so long ago that I'm like, yeah, Oregon did make the semifinals.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So Ole Miss and Oregon are those other two teams. Oregon returning Dante Moore. Ole Miss, we learned the other day, returning Trinidad Chambliss. Like he's going to be playing another year of college football. I don't think it's going to be able to be replicated by anybody else the way that he kind of went through his athletic journey, but both teams returning their starting quarterbacks. What's your outlook on one or both of those programs?
Man, I'm really interested to see what Ole Miss can do. Pete Golding this first year being the full-on head coach. Lane Kiffin is gone in Baton Rouge. And Ole Miss just trying to reload and keep some of those players at home and seeing just what Pete Golding can do. Obviously, that defense was flying around this year. They're able to stop a lot of good teams from scoring a lot of points. Um, and having Trinidad back is going to be a big, big plus for them. He just burst onto the scene throughout the season. A lot of people didn't know about him at first, obviously coming from Ferris State. Um, a really, really under the radar school, D2. Like a lot of people just don't know about it. And then bouncing into big time Power Four Ole Miss, back up for Austin Simmons. Simmons transfers to Missouri over this offseason as well. So keep that in mind.
That's an
So
interesting one too.
Chambliss, of course, is the starting quarterback going into next season, undoubtedly, and obviously was in Heisman race last year. Again, burst onto the scene, and so I'm excited to see what he can do. Just a lot of these quarterbacks. I'm like, how do you get so many years in college football? But hey, it's exciting to see. Boost the media coverage. So I'm excited for all that in college football. But yeah, I'm just curious to see what that defense continues to look like under Golding, what they can do on offense with different play calling scheme. It didn't seem like they could do a ton against Miami, but again, Miami was one of those teams that had that really strong defensive line. They did lose one of their top cornerbacks in that semifinal matchup after that targeting call, and so
No.
that really opened up Chambliss to bring that team back. But you saw in that first half, Ole Miss really wasn't able to do a ton. So I'm just really curious to see what they're able to do against some of those other teams in the SEC. Georgia is not going to go away. Alabama is not going to go away.
Yeah.
So really curious to see what that looks like. And then with Oregon, I found it really interesting that Dylan Raiola transferred to Oregon to be a backup.
Yeah. Well,
Bringing Dante Moore back. He's obviously going to start. And
but that's what Dante
Raiola's,
Moore did, remember? Like Dante Moore
yeah,
transferred from a starting role at UCLA to be the backup for Dylan Gabriel for a year. And I'd
that's
say
fair.
it worked out well. Like,
It worked out for him, but
yeah.
just with the amount of NIL funds that they're throwing at him and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
if I were him, I would have gone to some place that I could start because people are projecting him to be 2027 draft to be, top first round draft pick at quarterback when he was at Nebraska.
That fell off quick though. I
Yeah,
This year, I mean, after like September ended, I would say that that was pretty much like I didn't hear about it.
gone.
I didn't hear about it. Before
Yeah,
then, sure. Yeah.
the first couple weeks for sure, yeah. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, it fell off. Especially after the season that he had.
Yeah.
Anyway, Oregon, I'm excited for Dante Moore to come back. Obviously that Indiana game was tough. Tough sledding with the Indiana defense. D'Angelo Pond's going to be a first round
Crazy.
pick at cornerback from Indiana. He was able to lock him up in the air passing attack. But I'm curious about the defense. Obviously, Tosh Lupoi is going to Cal as their new head coach. So they're going to have a new defensive coordinator, possibly a new system. But Dan Lanning, he's that consistent piece where again he was defensive coordinator at Georgia and just bringing that stability across the board. I think that defense is going to be fine. But I'm just curious who are they all going to return? Quite a few people I'm sure are going into the draft from there. So I'm just curious to see how they reload.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Dan Lanning, and like he hasn't lost a lot of games at Oregon, but he hasn't exactly done what they brought him in to really do. He lost twice to Washington in that what was that 2023 or that was 2024 season back when there was the 14 playoff. Easily was in the picture to make the 14 playoff if they beat Washington in that rematch in the Pac-12 championship. Didn't do it. Um, Lost to Ohio State last year after going undefeated all year, and then their playoff was over in 8 minutes. 8 minutes of gameplay, their playoff was over, and it was like, well, they went 13-0. They were the best team all year, and then what? And then it's just that's
Oh.
it. And now I'm looking at this year, and it's like, okay, they beat James Madison in a playoff game at home. Great. Like, that's
Awesome.
awesome. And then you beat Texas Tech, who everybody was high on Texas Tech this year. And I guess in Big 12 standards, they should have been. But in the national landscape of things, that offense was horrendous.
Yeah.
It was really poor to watch. There's so many more. I would have rather had the Iowa offense against Oregon in that game. Like,
Whoa.
I'm sorry. Like, the
That's a crazy
Texas
take.
Tech
Granowski, come on now.
Texas Tech's playoff also was very similar to Oregon's last year. It lasted a few minutes. It was over. Like, that's it. Like, you had this big long season, 12-1, Big 12 champs, over. Like,
Do you think BYU's offense would have been better against Oregon?
I no. I mean,
Yeah.
no. Or Oregon's defense just was pretty good this year. And then but then during Indiana, they just ran into a train. I mean, that was crazy.
Absolute
That
juggernaut.
that was just nasty, nasty work. So I look at Dan Lanning's losses, circling back to it. It's Indiana twice, the national champion. It's Ohio State, the national champion. It's Washington twice, a team that made the national title. Like, he doesn't lose a lot of games, but he has to win against the premier teams in his league if he wants to get to where he needs to go, and that's making national championship games. Oregon has not been, at the top of college football. They've been close. A couple times they've been close. Haven't been able to cap it off though. And I'm glad you mentioned BYU too, because that's another storyline of the year. Kalani Sitake, we talked about him maybe getting the Penn State job after James Franklin was fired, but not to mention the past two seasons, BYU is 23-4. That's crazy.
That's nuts.
They only lost to Tech twice this year. And then last year, I'm blanking on what their two losses were, but they were bad down the stretch. They lost like two or three
Yeah.
games to miss out on the playoff last year. But 23-4 the past two seasons, I think it's an underrated storyline.
They're bringing us back to the Ty Detmer, Steve Young days.
No, yeah,
Let's go. Go
yeah,
Cougars, man.
yeah, go Cougars. So we hit on Texas Tech a little bit. I don't know if you have more to say on that. I feel like, man, I just
No, I mean that defense was just loaded this year. Jacob Rodriguez, I feel like should have got more votes for a first place Heisman
first place,
opportunity.
maybe more like second and third place votes. I don't. If someone voted in
Yeah,
first place, I would have been like, "Come on, dude!" Like,
yeah, not over Mendoza, but
not a Mendoza.
just like I guess a higher place in the Heisman voting because what was he, fifth or fourth?
Fifth? I think he might have been fifth. Fifth.
Dang. Yeah, I don't know. He just had an insane year. I need to go back and look at
Yeah.
his stats, but in a wild amount of tackles, had a few interceptions, forced fumbles. Like he was just a really, really impressive. And they used him all over the field. I think he had a rushing touchdown at one point or another on offense. But him, a few of their D tackles, Romello Height transfer from Georgia Tech going in to play defensive end for them. Great pickup as well. They're going to have two or three guys are going to be the first, second round as well. Like they were just loaded defense. But yeah, you're right. That offense just couldn't do anything. No steam as they got towards the back half of the year after that BYU game. Obviously, going into the playoff, they just couldn't do much. So yeah, I don't have much else to say for Texas Tech. Great year. Awesome job
Per
in the
year.
Big 12, but just couldn't do
Yeah.
much in the playoff.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see, now that they have Sorsby coming in at
Yeah.
quarterback, arguably the best quarterback in the Big 12.
See, that's another thing. I'm like, how is he the number one quarterback, or number one player for that matter in the transfer portal? Like,
I don't
I
know.
mean, because they finished 7-5 at Cincinnati, and there were points throughout the year where I was like, okay, I will say if you go back into the CFB podcast and you listen to some of our podcasts, I was like dark horse candidate Brendan Sorsby. But again,
Yeah.
that was like at the beginning of the year, middle of the
Yeah.
year, and they were undefeated at that point. And then they got on that skid where they lost 4 or 5 games. But yeah, I'm curious with a new change of scene, what that looks like, new offensive play calling, all that kind of stuff. Maybe he's different. I think he has skills.
Yeah.
But we'll see what that team around him what it can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think should still be the title favorite in the Big 12. We'll see on some of those other teams, but yeah, yeah. I don't know what they're going to look like on a national stage, and that's kind of been that was my worry about them this year, I think. But then looking at some of the other quarterfinal teams, the other teams that didn't make it through. Looking at Ohio State for sure, obviously. I mean, to go through your year undefeated, but then to lose your final two games. I didn't mind the loss to Indiana in the Big Ten championship. To me, it felt like they were burning clock, not trying to get injured. You know you're going to get a bye. You know you're going to be a top two seed no matter what the result is. So I didn't mind that as much. But then being at the Miami game and just seeing the offense not light up. Like we didn't see it all year with Ohio State. We saw them play with their food a lot, play really slow, kind of strangle opponents, and that was great. And I thought, okay, there's going to be a time where they turn it on. I don't know when it's going to be, but they're going to eventually do it. And it never happened. It just never came. Which was really disappointing after seeing them do it last year, pretty in all four of their playoff games last year. They're going to return Julian Sayin, going to return Jeremiah Smith, going to return Bo Jackson at running back. Got a lot of defensive pieces to replace, but I'm not too worried. So I feel pretty good about it still. Tough schedule, though. It's going to be a tough
Yeah,
schedule.
man.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're always just one of the top teams in the country. Like they're gonna find ways to win those games. I don't know. It's just and people continue to I feel like bash on Ryan Day a little bit. And
Yeah.
he's still one of the best coaches in the country. Like they continue to have these 11 win seasons. They're in the playoffs constantly. I get that you want to win a national championship, but you got to be happy that you're in the playoff at least.
I can't think of it. People are like, Ohio State might go 9-3 this year. Do you know when the last time Ohio State lost three games in the regular season?
The
It
Luke
wasn't in
Fickle
the
year?
playoff. It wasn't in the playoff era.
Was it the Luke Fickle year?
Yes, yes. Because then they go unbeaten in 2012, but they had the bowl ban. 2013, double digit wins. 2014, national champs. Every year that the playoffs been alive, they've been 10-2 or better. So I'm not. Oh, well, 2020 exception because they didn't play that many games, but they still played for the national title. But I'm not. We're not going 9-3. Like,
No.
not going to happen. Even if they do lose to a team like Texas, man, who are the other quarterfinal teams? Man, I'm blanking on that now.
You got
Ohio State,
Oklahoma, you got Georgia,
Alabama.
you got Tulane, you got Alabama, and then you got JMU.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What do you think about like Alabama, Georgia, some of the SEC teams that squeaked in and made the playoff? Not squeaked in. I mean, I guess Alabama may have to some people's minds, but
I don't know. I A sleeper pick for me is Keelan Russell, the new quarterback at Alabama, 5-star out of high school, one of the
mhm.
top quarterbacks coming out. Obviously sat behind Ty Simpson this year, but I think he's going to make a lot of noise this year. I think he's going to be similar to Jalen Hurts style quarterback, being able to run the ball a little bit more, being able to pass the ball, all the different things. So I'm excited about that. Not excited if Alabama is good again. They were good last year, but like good. Being able to be a top four seed in the playoff. Not excited for that again. But I do have a feeling, Alabama fans, that that's going to happen. And for Oklahoma, I think John Mateer, he's coming back, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah. So another year under his belt in that Oklahoma offense. I think they're going to be solid again. I'm really interested to see what they do throughout the year because obviously that Red River rivalry is going to be tough this year. I think Texas is going to be a team to beat. We can talk more about them later. But just approaching that game, seeing how many losses they might have then, like I just don't see an Oklahoma team at 3 losses getting in the playoff. But I think that defense under Venables has proven itself. I think they'll continue to be up there with Mateer at quarterback. I feel like it all comes down to quarterback at Oklahoma. Like they had that run of Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, even Caleb Williams before he transferred to
Yeah.
USC. So getting a guy might like Mateer, I think he's not quite in that echelon, but pretty close. And but the years that they struggled prior, Jackson Arnold, he was finding his footing. I don't even know if he's gonna be good this year for Auburn. Wasn't that great last year? So yeah, curious about Oklahoma. James Madison, Billy Napier is coming back. Sun Belt Bills back in the Sun
He's
Belt.
back.
Let's go. Excited for that. But interested to see how that coaching change happens. Obviously, he's had some losing seasons at Florida, so can he get back to his winning ways? What is that town called?
Harrisonburg.
Harrisonburg. I was gonna say
Yeah.
Harrisburg, but that's Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then I guess I'll just jump over to Georgia too.
Yeah.
Um, Georgia's one of those schools where like they're constantly good, but this past year I just couldn't get behind them. There wasn't anything about them where I was like, man, that is a national title team.
Mm.
They had good players, they had a good defense, but there were just too many close games that they had with these SEC schools where I was like, man, once you get to play a team like Ohio State, if you get there, or some of those teams, how are you going to fare? So, and that SEC schedule is a gauntlet. So I'm just curious how they're going to do this year, getting some of those players back. Kirby Smart is one of the best coaches in college football, so I'm not worried about them. I think they'll be back, probably back again, one of those top four seeds. But just curious with the new players and all those things, how that's going to look.
Yeah, Georgia will be an interesting case too, but I was impressed with Stockton this year. I mean,
Yeah,
they really showed out like towards the end of the year. Like they played under the radar. We didn't really see much of them, and didn't hear a lot of noise because we were so busy hearing about Indiana, Ohio State. We were so busy hearing about the undefeated teams that we forgot about 12-1 Georgia. So they were a team that I was scared of going into the playoff. But
yeah,
then playoff comes around and one game, tough game against Ole Miss, one of the more fun games of the playoff, and ends up in a loss. So Kirby Smart and Georgia, they haven't won a playoff game since 2022. Like
that's crazy.
that's
That
insane.
doesn't feel that long ago. I would have said they won one like last year, but
Oh my gosh, it's
dang.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy. I think we'll have to hit on Tulane in the offseason because I know that they're kind of going to be replacing quarterback, I believe. I think Retzloff is gone.
yeah. I think yeah, it was
Yeah,
last year.
yeah. So they will be an interesting case to look into this upcoming year. James Madison kind of goes into a storyline that I wanted to talk about with you. Is like North Dakota State is now entering the FBS, and it's happening this year. They're entering the Mountain West Conference, a diluted Mountain West Conference, I might add. They're going to be with the likes of Hawaii, UNLV, um, Northern Illinois is joining the Mountain West this year. Yeah, as the Pac-12 and the
Crazy.
Mountain West are all kind of occupying that area, unless you're in the Big Ten or ACC, like some of those other schools. But it's really interesting to see. So seeing James Madison make the playoff this year, they lost one game during the regular season to a decent Louisville team. I mean, Louisville also beat Miami. Louisville beat two playoff teams this year.
Yeah,
But James Madison, like if they're able to transition the way they did up to FBS and the way that they've competed in the Sun Belt, which I think is a much better conference than the current Mountain West Conference, I think North Dakota State can make noise right away, which is going to be super, super exciting for them. They're not going to be eligible for the Mountain West Conference Championship this year. They're not going to be eligible for postseason play this year. Hoping that they can appeal it, hoping that that rule gets changed. But obviously, that's an NCAA issue, not necessarily a Mountain West issue or even a college football playoff issue. But what's your outlook for the Bison, the 10-time national champions on the FCS level? Nobody's had more national champions than them. They make their way to the FBS.
man. Yeah, I'm trying to see. So Mountain West teams, you got Air Force, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, Northern Illinois, San Jose State, UNLV, UTEP, Wyoming.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of these teams are beatable, man. And North Dakota State, they're always top of the league in the FCS. Obviously, slipped up this year against Illinois State. Um, but I mean, like you said, they could make some noise. I feel like they always have great team chemistry. They recruit well, they develop well. They find those diamonds in the rough that just continue to churn out those national titles at the FCS level. So I'm excited to see what they can do in the Mountain West. I definitely think they can beat a majority of these teams. Curious what UNLV can do next year, losing their quarterback from this past year. Yeah, that's the only school that I see on this list outside of maybe New Mexico. Jason Eck, head coach, like they're
Yeah.
always pretty decent. Maybe those two teams are the only ones that they probably couldn't beat, but everyone else, I mean, they could go 10-2 in the Mountain West right away next year.
They could. I don't know what their do we know what their non-conference schedule looks like? Because that's going to be interesting.
I don't think they've
Um,
announced the schedule yet.
yeah, probably haven't announced the schedule yet, but North Dakota State, just because what I've been able to see from James Madison, it's not like James Madison was winning a bunch of national titles. They won in 2016 over my Youngstown State Penguins and your Bo Pelini. uh,
Yep.
but they weren't like winning perennial national titles. For a lot of those, it was North Dakota State. Then South Dakota State won a few. Then North Dakota State won their last one, I believe, in 2024, I believe. But they've been out on the mountaintop, and it's really hard to win at that level. And now I've seen Kennesaw State. Like they had two wins last year, then they
Let's
won
go.
Conference USA this year. Kennesaw State, another team, was not like this powerhouse FCS program, and and Conference USA is very similar to what I'm seeing with the Mountain West layout. I'd say the Mountain West is a little stronger, but I think North Dakota State can make some noise. I'm really excited for that as it transitions on. Then I also want to talk about the Pac-12 because they released their schedule. Did you get a chance to see this yet?
No, I didn't.
It's very unique. I'll pull it up for our audience who
Go.
likes to watch. But they added in a flex game to the last week of their season. Basically means they could schedule whatever they want for that final game.
What?
Yeah,
So
it's
like they could just schedule like Ohio State if they wanted to.
no, it has to be like a team in the conference.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be a team in the conference. Let's see if we can find this. Um, but it won't count as like a conference game. So that's one of the
It's just
interesting
like it
things.
what's the point, I guess? Is it just like an extra game to like add to their win total to try to get in the playoff or
I mean, they said that it's subject to change and it could be one of those things that serves their best interest of the playoff. So let's say you have two teams who are both really good, very highly ranked, but they don't see each other again. You might want them to pit them up against each other to kind of see
Mhm.
like can like one of them like uh potentially make the playoff.
That's interesting.
I gotta find this thing. But yeah, it's super interesting. And then speaking of the playoff, there's new playoff changes as well. This upcoming year, we're going to see the third iteration of the 12-team playoff. So we're going to see, unlike in years past where it was the top five conference champions and then seven at large, now it's the ACC champion, the Big Ten champ, the SEC champ, the Big 12 champ, because they want to avoid what we had this past year with two group of five teams. And then they said it's just the top ranked group of five team. It doesn't even have to be a champion. What is your outlook on that as, we get into this new season? What's kind of like what's on your mind with
Man, I don't know. I really don't have anything right now. I
that?
can't even think about like the new college football playoff season. I'm still like thinking about this past season, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just like interested to see what teams can make it there, if teams get back there. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Craziness.
Yeah. It'll be interesting for sure. What other storylines before we like wrap up here today do you want to like hit on from this past year? And then we have a
Ooh.
long off season ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the new coaches coming in. Curious about Franklin, what he can do at Virginia Tech. I really want Virginia Tech to be back. I think
Yeah.
that'll be fun. Grunkemeyer is going to be their quarterback from Penn State, so that'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Obviously, Penn State is getting Rocco Becht, and Matt Campbell's bringing all of his Iowa State peeps over there. So I'm excited to see what Penn State can do, and obviously Lucas will have more to touch on when he joins us next time. Um, Yeah, LSU with Lane Kiffin. I'm also really, really excited to see what these American coaches can do in more of that Power Four avenue of things. So I'm thinking about like John Summerall at Florida. I'm thinking about Eric Morris from UNT to Oklahoma State, bringing over Drew Mestemaker and Wyatt Young and Caleb Hawkins, that big three. I think
Oh
they can make
yeah.
some noise in the Big 12. Um, who else am I thinking about that? Is a new Bob Chesney going to UCLA from James Madison. I think UCLA could do something. Nico's coming back, Iamaliava. Some other new players coming in the mix there. So UCLA could potentially make some noise. I don't know. So it's going to be a wild, wild time. I feel like in college football this year with the new coaches, NIL is continuing to be on the rise. Transfer portal continues to have new players in and out. You're seeing these big time quarterbacks going to these different locations. My mind is being blown by just seeing all these different quarterbacks in different uniforms. I'm like, that looks wrong.
Josh Hoover in an Indiana uniform.
That's going to be terrible. But I think he could potentially win the Heisman and they could go back to back this year. Just
Yeah.
doing what he can with his legs and being able to, I mean, he broke the TCU passing yards record with 3,949 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see some of these new teams on the rise with their new transfers, new coaches. Hopefully, we're seeing some of those bloods coming back too.
Yeah, for sure. And James Franklin at Virginia Tech is one that I'm really excited about. He's a big time coach, and they're not going to have a big time schedule in the ACC that he was dealing with maybe like last year at Penn State. That was kind of a difficult schedule. Um, and now you have Brent Pry. He was the former coach of Virginia Tech. Now he's the defensive
That's weird.
coordinator at Virginia
Yeah.
Tech.
Can
He
you
moves
imagine
down.
walking into that same building and being like shunned as the head coach, and
What?
then they're welcoming him back as the DC? Like I can't imagine that feeling. Like
I don't know. I'm curious what that dynamic is going to look like. I mean, Brent Pry is a great defensive minded coach. Obviously, things didn't work out for him as the head coach of that program, but I'm curious to see. Maybe he ends up enjoying it more. Like we ended up seeing that with some coordinators who came in, like Chip Kelly, like when he was coordinator at Ohio State. He was like, I just like coaching the guys a little bit more than I had the responsibilities as head coach to do. And then Penn State too. Everybody keeps saying that their schedule is really easy for the Big Ten, which it is. Like I have it up right now: non-con, Marshall, Temple, Buffalo. It isn't super tough, of course. And the conference schedule: Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue,
how about
Minnesota.
Northwestern?
Yeah,
Northwestern got Chip Kelly as OC. They brought
yeah.
in Neuheisel from UCLA as their QB's coach. Like Aiden
Hmm.
Childs going to be their quarterback. I mean, they could make some noise this year too.
In new stadium, right? Is this their
Yeah,
new
new
stadium?
stadium.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be really fun. I mean, but going back to Penn State's schedule, the really tough games are Washington, USC, and Michigan. Um, and those, of course, are tough games, but Michigan's replacing their head coach. USC been up and down. Washington, they've kind of they are returning Damon Williams, I believe, at quarterback, but we obviously saw the drama that unfolded with that this offseason. He wanted to leave. Washington, wanted him to stay, and he ended up staying. But I don't know because I wouldn't take Iowa State to make the playoff with this schedule, and that's basically what Penn State is this year. Obviously, we'll have Lucas to talk more a little bit
Yeah.
about that, but Penn State's schedule easy on Big Ten standards, but at the same time, I wouldn't take Iowa State to go 10-2 with this. So
No.
that's my opinion on it. I know they're going to be favorites to make the playoff, but I just don't know. I'm glad you brought up Northwestern though. That'll be fun. That'll be fun this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and like
Um,
Wisconsin too.
yeah.
Gosh, who did they get for their new quarterback? He's a good dual threat. I need to look him up real quick.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, they got
I'm
Notre Dame in the non-con. Okay.
I'm excited to see Colton Joseph from Old Dominion. I don't know
Oh,
if you remember, but him against
they had a good
Indiana,
year.
that was a close game.
They had a
Um,
good year. They
he
really did.
he he ranked eighth in the country in total offense, 302.6 yards per game. Um, Dual threat. I don't know. Like Wisconsin could be back in the mix too. Luke Fickle, obviously on the hot seat. I'm curious to see, After this year, is he done if they don't have if they're not back to 8-4, 9-3? Like I'm curious.
Yeah, I think with their schedule, Notre Dame, USC, Iowa are the tough games. Penn
Yeah.
State, everything else is kind of manageable. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I agree. I think if you're not winning 8, 9 games, like, but we talked about this last year, but going into this year, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy stuff in all the conferences. A lot
Yeah,
of
great.
moves.
A lot of moves happening. Man, not sure if I got anything else for this inaugural 2026 episode.
Let's go. Good episode. I like it.
Good episode. Yeah. Be sure to follow us on X, follow us on Instagram. Might be putting some new things out there this year.
Yup. Let's do
Yep.
it.
Yeah, we'll do it. Oh man. Well, that's all we got for you today. For Jacob Vanderford, I'm Brian Partiga. This is college football tradition. Go Blue Jays.
Peace.